Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the brand new Arctic Monkeys album, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino.
So it's been 5 years since the band's last album, AM, was a huge success both critically and commercially. And although I personally think it's incredibly overrated, I can't deny that album has a lot of charm to it. After over a year of touring, the band went on a hiatus so they could work on other projects, with Alex Turner going off to make another Last Shadow Puppets record and Matt Helder's playing drums on the newest Iggy Pop album. However, at the beginning of this year, the band came out of hiding and started to announce new tour dates and festival performances.
In April of this year, they officially announced that the album would be coming out in early May without any pre-singles.
So apart from a short snippet and a few live videos on YouTube, we didn't really get a taste of what was coming from the album until its release. No one knew what to expect, and when the album finally was released, it turned a lot of heads, to say the least. The album has gotten some of the most mixed reviews of any of their albums to date, with some considering it a bold and fascinating step for the band, and others considering it a gigantic misstep.
However, I personally believe that this is one of the most interesting, unique and complex mainstream rock albums I've heard in the last couple of years.
The album is in many ways, if you take David Bowie and John Lennon and get them to make a jazz/blues/space rock album. It's a very different album for the band and is unlike anything they've ever made. The album is a very luscious, subdued and calm album that takes you on a journey unlike any other. It's a concept album about a hotel on the moon in a dystopian future.
It's an idea that is incredibly unusual, but definitely intriguing.
It's less of a guitar album than their previous work and is mostly dominated by pianos and synthesizers. This is something that I can definitely see dividing people, but I personally thought made it stand out.
Not to mention, it made those moments where the guitars actually do show up even more powerful.
The album starts with the track Star Treatment, a song about celebrities being distorted by the press and by the public who idolize them. It has a really calm and loungy feel to it, something that's a big part of the album's sound. It's full of really strong bass lines that basically power the entire song.
This is essentially just a calm jazz song with production that makes it all open, large and almost psychedelic.
Alex's vocals are really great on this song. With this album, he steps away from that sexy, suave style on the last couple albums and sings normally for a change. He stretches his vocal range by singing with a lot of falsetto and baritone notes. He sounds much more mature on this album, which is something which really makes it stand out. The lyrics are very self-aware and he has a very strong stream of consciousness style throughout the whole thing. Throughout the album, he throws in many surreal, absurd lyrics and mixes them in with self-deprecation, autobiographical moments, and also references to his movie and music influences. The album is heavily inspired by science fiction and has a strong focus on space and technology, both of which are viewed introspectively and at times comedically. Alex seems to go back to the writing style of the first album by writing very satirically about the world around him. But here, instead of singing about youth cultures, he sings about the political state of the world and the possible dystopian future that the world is leading to if technology and politics remain as broken as they are.
At first, the lyrics to this album really boggled me, like I seriously didn't get it at all.
I thought they were really stupid and cringy, but over repeated listens and exploration I realised just how well written and interesting they really are. At least for the most part anyway. There are a few moments that don't really work, for example when She Looks Like Fun, when in the first chorus he just passionately sings cheeseburger, and there are other lines that are a little bit too silly for their own good as well, like the Blade Runner reference and Star Treatment, but when the lyrics are good, they are easily some of the best lyrics that the band have ever done to date. The second song, 1 Point Perspective, is one of the best songs on the album. It has these bouncy piano octaves and bright bass lines that contrast the dark lyrics about dreams being interrupted by reality. There's also a really great fuzz-covered guitar solo which is simple and very short, yet one of my favourite moments on the album. Alex's vocals on this album show him go full lounge singer with his croony mix of falsetto and soul-inspired vocal patterns, and 1 Point Perspective is a song that shows this off perfectly. This song then leads into the very spacey and dystopian American sports, in which Alex sings about our obsession with technology and the media. On this song, Alex takes many of the inhabitants of the hotel and compares them to modern day people. The title track also has a lot of comparisons between this dystopian future in our modern day by using a lot of political imagery and describing odd characters. This song is another standout track with Alex's really soft-spoken vocals and beautiful use of harpsichords which give it this really dark, almost sci-fi B-movie feel. The next standout track has to be 4 out of 5, which is easily my favourite song on the album. This song reads like an advert for the hotel and describes their restaurant that's received 4 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, this is such a weird album lyrically.
The lyrics are really good, but it's the instrumentation of this song that really makes it stand out. It has an almost glam rock feel to it that reminds me heavily of early David Bowie. Alex's vocals sound like Bowie has basically taken over here. I get strong vibes of the Young Americans album with its blend of soul, R&B and more traditional glam rock. Not to mention the fuzzy guitar riffs are really memorable and easily some of the most memorable parts of the album. This is one of the few songs on the album that feels really epic and triumphant, at least compared to the slower, loungy feel to the rest of the song. The album definitely slows down a little bit after this and returns to the slower and more relaxed sound of the earlier tracks, which at times can get a little bit tiresome. After 4 out of 5, the album does start to kind of sound a little bit samey, with very few huge standout moments that differentiate themselves from the other songs. But I definitely found these songs got more enjoyable to listen to upon repeated listens when I had no expectations on the directions that they would take.
These songs are all very pretty and full of some really fantastic lyrics.
She Looks Like Fun is another really explosive song, however, which is about how we consume information in the modern age and how it in ways worse people because of how little filters we have nowadays. The song Bat Phone once again gives me Bowie vibes, but reminds me heavily of the Berlin trilogy. That empty, almost ambient synth-heavy feel reminds me of a lot of the work that Bowie did with Brian Eno on those albums. Alex's vocals are very odd on this song, with him switching between spoken word passages and very jazz-like moments where he completely disregards the chord progression of the song and just sings major and minor notes regardless of what's being played underneath. The final song, The Ultra Cheese, is definitely a very nice note to end on as well. It's a pretty piano ballad about being disconnected from society. Alex sings very personally on this song about how much of an impact his music and fame has had on his life and personality. It's a very beautiful, almost Frank Sinatra-esque ballad which brings the album to a close perfectly.
With this album, the band feel like they've matured past even how they were just like 5 years ago with the last album.
Instead of writing another indie rock album for teenagers to dance around to at parties, they've created this really fascinating and different lounge pop album. This is something that I see dividing a lot of people, and I completely understand the mixed reviews. But it's an album that I think will receive a lot of acclaim in retrospective reviews. I can see this being an album that puts the band's name in the history books as one of the great bands of the 2000s/2010s. Although there are a few moments that don't stand out so well, for example Golden Trunks and the world's first ever monster truck front flip, the album is a really mystical, odd and fascinating album. I understand why people would hate it as much as they do, but it's one that I think really needs some time to grow. Compared to the band's other albums, I'd say this is definitely a better album than AM, but it's fighting heavily with Sucker and See for my 4th favourite album by them.
It's easily one of the most interesting and different albums I've heard this year, one that I definitely see myself going back to over and over the next few months and probably even years. So I give Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino by Arctic Monkeys an 8.5 out of 10. Hi guys, thanks for watching my review of the new Arctic Monkeys album. It was a lot of fun to actually sit down and write it out. Finally, I've been sitting on these opinions for about a week or so now, so I'm glad to finally get it all out there. Let me know what you thought of the album in the comments section below. Did you love it or hate it? It seems to be a very polarizing album. People seem to either love it or completely hate it, so it's interesting to see what you guys think about it. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.